All right, guys, welcome back. This is Ron here with your stimulus check update and stimulus package update. I've got several updates that I want to provide with you guys today, including up to $1,500 in stimulus checks out to the American people. I'm going to share the details with you guys on this one. Also, several states have managed to be able to extend their federal unemployment insurance benefits. I'm going to share those details with you guys on which states have been able to do that, as well as what states may actually be able to do the same going forward. Also, lockdowns and virus vaccine related updates. And President Trump said that he will actually sign the next stimulus package for the American people. And so, of course, I'll be covering all of these updates in this video. So you definitely want to make sure you stay until the end of this video so that you don't miss out on any of this information. I'm going to share all the details with you guys in this video. But first, I just want to say welcome back to all my subscribers. I really appreciate you guys. And for those of you who are brand new to the channel, my name is Ron. We cover all things personal finance, investing, how to generate multiple streams of income, and of course, stimulus check updates and stimulus package updates. And so if you haven't already, definitely subscribe to the channel and tap the notification bell so that you know as soon as I release new videos and content. But anyway, guys, let's jump into the content. Now, if you guys remember back around May when the HEROES Act was passed, I myself, as well as a number of different people, were giving a lot of heat to Mitch McConnell about, his words and his actions with regard to the HEROES Act. He essentially said that this HEROES Act was going to be dead on arrival. It's not going to pass the Senate, and he held true on his bargain, or in his promise. The HEROES Act didn't pass. In fact, he didn't even allow the Senate to vote on this particular bill. And of course, this bill would have provided additional stimulus checks to the American people, $1,200 stimulus checks, an extension on the unemployment insurance benefits, as well as a host of other things. It even expanded the eligibility for qualifications for the stimulus checks for the American people. Right now, Nancy Pelosi is the one that's receiving the brunt of the heat. In fact, she's being questioned right now about whether or not it was a mistake for her to reject the $1.8 trillion stimulus package that was offered to her that did include stimulus checks for the American people. At her press conference on Friday, House Speaker Nancy Pelosi defended her support of a stimulus package that was half the size of what the Trump administration offered to her on October. She cited that the game changer of Joe Biden's election as the 46th president, as well as the positive vaccine developments in her backing of the $908 billion relief bill proposed earlier this week. Are you guys getting this? Nancy Pelosi is literally defending herself on her decision to pass on the $1.8 trillion stimulus package that would have actually provided Americans with a $1,200 stimulus check, as well as thousands of dollars worth of additional unemployment insurance benefits by now. Americans would have already had this money in their pockets right now, but Nancy Pelosi declined on that offer, and she's also defending the fact that she made the decision that she made. Now, personally, I wonder how Nancy Pelosi would feel if she were in the shoes of the average American right now, who is simply struggling to, remain in their homes right now due to evictions and foreclosures, not to mention Christmas being right around the corner. I don't think Nancy Pelosi is necessarily dealing with the same issues that the average American person is dealing with right now when they have to explain to their kids that, hey, we can't have Christmas this year because we can't quite cover it. In fact, I want to share a very quick clip with you guys from Nancy Pelosi as she responds to the commentary that she made a mistake not accepting the $1.8 trillion stimulus package that was offered to her.
Had to accept half of a loaf months ago when you said, I'm not going to accept half a loaf.
Look, I'm going to tell you something.
Now,
Don't characterize what we did before as a mistake, as a preface to your question, if you want an answer. That was not a mistake. It was a decision.
Now, I just got to stop it right there. Nancy Pelosi is quite defensive in her remarks right here. She's basically calling out the reporter for calling out her mistake. She's essentially saying, hey, if you want an answer from me, you can't start your question off by calling me out.
And it has taken us to a place where we can do the right thing without other, shall we say, considerations in the legislation that we don't want. Now, that is it. Now, the fact is, I'm very proud of where we are. My chairs have worked very hard on all of this. They were not even happy with a proposal that we made the other day before we saw this proposal. They thought we had come back too small. So it's not about an individual, it's about how we address the needs of the American people. And we have to do it in a scientific way, and we have to do it in a way that recognizes people need food on the table.
Now, I got to stop her again. I don't understand how we're at a point where we could potentially be okay accepting a $908 billion stimulus package. This is not even $1 trillion stimulus package, but yet, she was hard set on, anywhere between $2.2 and $2.4 trillion only several weeks ago. But now we're all of a sudden willing to accept a $908 billion stimulus package that does not include half of the things that were in the $1.8 trillion stimulus package that was offered to her months ago. I mean, guys, if I'm way off base here, please comment below. Let me know. I'm totally okay with it. But I just don't see how she's now okay with $908 billion, but she wasn't okay with $1.8 trillion several months back.
They need to get their rent paid. They need money in their pockets. They need their unemployment insurance to be there. They do not need a whole cacophony of other things that are on the agenda that have nothing to do with meeting their needs. So we're very pleased at where it is. And as I say,
she's pleased at where this is. I don't understand this.
Democratic president committed to a scientific solution for this with the idea that we will have a vaccine. It's a complete game changer from them.
Okay, so basically what she's saying is the fact that we have a vaccine on the way, that's the game changer. But I mean, it doesn't change anything financially immediately for the American people. I mean, even if everyone was vaccinated, like say tomorrow, people who need money to stay in their homes, people who need a stimulus check today, that doesn't change even if the health situation was to improve overnight. So from a fiscal financial standpoint, it doesn't change anything. I don't understand how that changes anything from a financial standpoint. But again, like I said, guys, if you guys disagree, let me know down in the comments down below. But, I jump on here every single day because, I don't want politicians to think that, that the American people don't care. We have to stay in their faces and let them know that because they don't understand the exact nature, the exact position that the American people are in right now, it's incredibly painful, So we have to jump out there. We have to remind them every single day. And this is why it's great to share these videos because, these politicians, they're seeing what's going on here, whether it be through our YouTube channels, the letters that you guys send to politicians, the phone calls that you guys are making. We have to reach out to these people because a lot of these elected officials, they just don't quite understand the state of the American people. And of course, it will be incredibly difficult to forget the fact that President Trump promised us a big, beautiful stimulus package. There will be bigger stimulus checks for the American people and, essentially promised us the world. And, President Trump has been incredibly quiet over the last several months, especially post-election. However, recent news indicates that President Trump will sign Mitch McConnell's virus stimulus bill. Now, let's look at the details on this particular bill. So President Trump will sign Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell's virus stimulus proposal, according to Treasury Secretary Steve Mnuchin. Now, McConnell announced what appears to be a tweaked version of the previous $500 billion deal on Tuesday, just hours after a group of bipartisan senators put forward a $908 billion proposal. Now, what we do know about this bill is that this bill does not currently include stimulus checks for the American people. So my big question is, whatever happened to this big, beautiful stimulus package that President Trump promised us? I mean, he is still technically in office. Whatever happened with that? I feel like, he pretty much disappeared and kind of like, left us hanging. But I would definitely love to hear from you guys. What do you think is going on that one? We've also heard from the Problem Solvers Caucus. Now, this is the group of 25 Democrats and 25 Republicans out of the House of Representatives. Now, essentially, this Problem Solvers Caucus was put together to assist in, any time that there's, stalled negotiations, especially like right now with stimulus package negotiations. So I want you guys to hear specifically from Josh Geitheimer on where we stand with relation to stimulus checks for the American people.
And you've probably heard some members say they want stimulus payments in this package right now. Are you going to try to get that in there? Do you support putting that into this $908 billion package?
As you know, everything's about putting things down and trying to get what you can get. And we've been working around the clock, as Tom has said, with this group behind us for weeks. There's things we'd all like more of, but the bottom line is, we believe whether you're talking about helping people with unemployment, whether you're talking about nutrition and making sure those who, as Dean showed the picture, you've got people for the first time in the food lines and making sure we've got support in there for them and for our schools and for childcare and for rental assistance. So many of the priorities that we all care about are in the values we believe in and fight for are on this 908, and I believe that's going to be what we're going to fight for in the next days to make sure that that's what happens.
So basically what I've gotten from Josh Gottheimer's minute of complete BS is that they've essentially given up on trying to get stimulus checks out to the American people, at least from the Problem Solvers Caucus standpoint. Now, of course, we've heard from Problem Solvers Caucus Josh Gottheimer on stimulus checks, and effectively, it sounds like he's pretty much given up. But let's just hear from President Trump to see if he has any words, because of course, he did promise us this big, beautiful stimulus check.
I think they're getting very close, and I want it to happen, and I believe that they're getting very close to a deal. Yeah.
You'll support it?
I will, absolutely. Yeah.
So apparently President Trump doesn't have any words on the fact that this stimulus bill doesn't include stimulus checks for the American people. Now, of course, there is no bill at this time that has officially been signed, so we can see modifications to this bill. Right now, it does look like the $908 billion bill probably has the most likelihood of being passed, but I would not be surprised to see something, in addition to what we're seeing currently, added to the stimulus bill, maybe additional stimulus checks for the American people as a last minute, ditch effort to push that in. Because if you think about it, that would only add about $300 billion to the stimulus package, making it a $1.2 trillion stimulus package. And in my opinion, that is certainly doable, seeing as how we did a $2 trillion stimulus package about 10 months ago. So virus cases are spiking throughout the nations, and we're seeing more and more state and local lockdowns as a result of this. In fact, at one point, as of November 26th, we saw the lowest level of reported cases in several weeks. However, the single day of 103,000 cases being reported was quickly eclipsed. By December 4th, we registered over 229,000 new cases for the virus. So this thing is not slowing down at all, you guys. With hopes of a brand new stimulus package being passed in the next couple of days and additional stimulus checks out to the American people, one new proposal could actually potentially put up to $1,500 in stimulus checks into the hands of Americans who are interested in receiving the virus vaccination. With the anticipation of several different new virus vaccinations being available on the market within the next potentially several days, maybe a couple of weeks, many people have been kind of up in the air in terms of whether or not they would even be willing to be among some of the first few Americans to even take this vaccination. And I don't blame you. I don't really want to be a guinea pig either. However, one particular stimulus package proposal or, stimulus check proposal may be willing to put up to $1,500 in stimulus checks into the pockets of the American people. Now, this is brand new and there are very little details out on this one just yet. However, one new proposal aims to help both efforts by giving people $1,500 in stimulus checks in exchange for getting immunized. Now, according to John Delaney, who is the former Democratic congressman of Maryland, he says that the faster we get 75% of the country vaccinated, the faster we end the virus and the sooner everything returns back to normal. Now, as I said earlier, the big debate among people is, whether or not to take this vaccination when it becomes available. And he indicates that public polling has found that whether or not to take the vaccine has become a political issue, which is discouraging. He went on to say that we have to create, in his judgment, an incentive for people to really accelerate their thinking about taking the vaccine. And so essentially this $1,500 in stimulus checks would be the motivational factors to get more American people on board with taking this vaccination. He goes on to say that if you're still afraid of the vaccine and don't want to take it, that's your right. You won't participate in this program. But guess what? You're going to benefit anyhow because we're going to get the country to a herd immunity faster, which benefits you. So I think everyone wins. In order to execute the plan, the government would have to create a system where people would receive a number once they were vaccinated. Once they enter that along with their social security number, they would receive a check. Now, if this actually goes through, the U.S. is actually paying people to get vaccinated. I mean, that just seems a bit odd, but it says that some other countries already reimburse people for vaccine compliance. According to Delaney, he said in Mexico that the government pays people to get their children immunized. Also in India, one program provides food and household goods once kids are vaccinated. Or vaccinated. So I guess this isn't too uncommon, but it just seems like a first for at least for the United States. Now it says here that sending Americans $1,500 in exchange for vaccinations would cost $380 billion. Now, in comparison, the first stimulus checks that were sent out by the American government earlier this year from the CARES Act totaled more than $270 billion. So it's certainly not impossible for the U.S. government to make this happen. Now, for those of you guys who are kind of on the fence about whether or not you would actually take a vaccination once it becomes available, I would love to know from you guys, if you received a $1,500 stimulus check, would you all of a sudden be willing to take the vaccination? I would love to hear from you guys. Drop me a comment down below, please. And also, more and more states, local government, counties are releasing their own versions of stimulus checks. They're essentially liquidating the CARES Act money that will ultimately have to be returned back to the federal government by the end of the year. So like I said, we're seeing more and more state and local government stimulus packages becoming available for the American people, because if they don't spend this money, if they don't use this money, they're essentially going to have to send it back. So as of Tuesday, Colorado has sent out $375 in stimulus unemployment payments. It says here that the state government will send out one payments of $375 to 430,000 people starting on Tuesday. So this was just Tuesday. Governor Jared Polis ordered the payments as a miniature economic stimulus. Essentially, Colorado legislature figured out how to reinstate unemployment insurance benefits that had just ended. And I have a pretty strong inclination that Colorado will not be the only state that is doing this. In fact, if Colorado was able to do this, there's really nothing that stops other states from being able to do this. So as soon as additional information comes out regarding each state extending their federal unemployment insurance benefits, I'm definitely going to be sharing that with you guys. In fact, I've got several other states that I'm going to be sharing with you that have also been able to pull this off, including Maryland, Alaska, California, New York, and New Mexico. So Colorado is not the only state that has been able to pull off extending their unemployment insurance benefits. Essentially, on Wednesday, the General Assembly approved a bill that changes how the state's eligibility for the SEB is calculated and sent it to Governor Jared Polis, who is expected to sign the legislation as part of a late amendment to the Senate Bill 2, which dealt with housing and direct COVID emergency assistance. Lawmakers adopted a second trigger to calculate unemployment rates differently. And so again, like I said, I totally anticipate that additional states are going to take advantage of this loophole and be able to provide and extend additional unemployment insurance benefits to their residents. So as soon as more information comes out from other states, I'm definitely going to be sharing this information with you guys. So anyway, guys, that's all for the stimulus check update and stimulus package update. The potential for up to $1,500 in stimulus checks to the American people, assuming that the vaccination initiative actually goes through. The states that are extending their unemployment insurance benefits, as well as the lockdowns and virus vaccine related updates, and how President Trump would actually be willing to sign the next stimulus package, guys. But as soon as additional information comes out, I will definitely be sharing it with you guys. So if you haven't already, definitely subscribe to the channel and tap the notification bell so that you know as soon as I release new videos and content. And I will see you guys on the next one. Take care.